Blacksmith Jeff Dodd had never anticipated a career at the family forge, but when his father became seriously ill, Jeff was recalled from his national service and soon found himself in charge.
So I was thrown in at the deep end, certainly, and I certainly remember within a couple of days I was pulling off horseshoes, and within a couple of weeks I was nailing them on. Grandfather died just a year after I came out of the army, so that was my apprenticeship, and from then on I was virtually on my own in the workshop. My father was always on hand to advise and help, but I worked on alone and became very, very independent. I was fairly busy most of the time, but after what would it be, a few years anyway, I felt that the job wasn't stretching me mentally. I wasn't a very good businessman. I wasn't making much money, and seriously was thinking of throwing my hand in altogether. However, at just about that time, the flower parade cropped up. One of my customers was a wholesaler, a bulb wholesaler, and he wanted to put a float in the flower parade, and he brought along Cornelius Van Driel, who was the designer of the floats, to see me. And I remember him saying to Con Van Driel, "Yeah, I reckon this is the chap you're looking for." However, I built that float for that firm and one other that year. I'd missed the first parade, didn't know anything about it at all. This was the second flower parade, tulip parade it was then. In the next year, I remember quite three or five floats, but very quickly most of the sponsors discovered that it was cheaper and a lot easier to let me build the floats rather than build them themselves or find themselves a builder. For 2 years we certainly built them on the road in front of the workshop, but after that we found big buildings, or at least the Tulip Parade Committee found big buildings, anybody who would let them use them rent free. The framework was quite light to make a shape. All we were making was a shape of an animal or whatever, which could be covered with straw mats originally, and then later on with a plastic foam sheeting which was glued on, that the straw was tied on. The main framework was made of quite light strip iron, so it was all made with cold iron, and we worked out techniques. We had a series of formers and tools for making the particular shapes, and then it was all electrically welded together with some stiffening on the inside, just to give it some skeleton to make it safe and secure.
Over the years, Jeff and his team created hundreds of floats for Spalding's Flower Parades. These pictures show the increasingly complicated shapes, which tested Jeff's ingenuity.
As the years went on, Van Driel said, I reckon if I can draw it, you could make it. And so he certainly was able to make more and more elaborate floats, and I worked out sort of techniques, because it was quite different from it was still bending iron and welding, but there were building up animals and figures, which was quite interesting, and it took a bit of thinking, and we worked out techniques to master the job. 4 or 5 years, I think I certainly was building 3/4 of the floats, and in another year or two, practically the whole of the parade. which was a sort of a salvation, both mentally and because there was something to think about, and financially as well, because it was quite a it was quite a big job, rather than mending this and mending that.
If not for Jeff and the Chainbridge Forge, the shape and history of the Spalding Flower Parade could have been very different.